Good morning, folks. Saturday edition, early Saturday edition. Wow, what a change here from days in the past. There's hardly anything on here. Yesterday we left off, amongst many things that we were doing, painting the white Hun elephant. So that's what we're going to pick up. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to add the carapace on this guy. We're going to assume that it is made out of hard leather, not metal. So I want this elephant to be very brown looking. So let's hop to it. It's the thing with the camera. Whatever way you want to move it, it's really the opposite way. And I think I'm in the way, so let me take myself and... Oh, I thought I pulled that. I don't know what that exactly that is. Let's move that back in the corner here. Okay. All right. Let's paint the leather on this, on the front of this elephant here. And as I mentioned yesterday or last night, this could be a shorter Saturday morning session than normal. To be determined. No matter what, I gotta be off by in 3 hours for sure. But it might be even shorter than that. We'll have to check in about an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. I'd like to get this guy done this weekend with crew. That crew's a piece of cake. It's 4 guys, but it's still a piece of cake. They're not elaborately dressed or anything. I'm not really sure what the hell these things are here. We're gonna go ahead and paint them this, and we may end up decorating with bronze or something like that afterwards. They look like they might have something to them. A lot of things you just have to start painting and just paint your way out. Figure things out what they are on the fly. Sometimes you start painting something and you realize, oh, that's a shirt and it ends here and starts at this point. Stuff you can't readily see while you're looking at it. Yeah, if this was made out of metal, it would be a whole lot of weight on this guy's head. He's already got to carry multiple slackers on top of him. And expect to fight in combat. And I'm making this a relatively early elephant. You know, probably around the time of, say, Justinian or so. So I'm thinking the metal wouldn't be that thin if they put metal on them. About 500 AD. I think this is only my fourth elephant that I've painted. I don't know that I like to use them in battle that much. They're kind of a unique thing to use. They're definitely one of the heavy hitters of this army because this army is mostly light horse. So if they need to fight any ground troops worth a damn, it's got to be most of the interference and damage needs to be caused by this guy. The interference and damage department. I'm going to paint the center in this also in leather. I think I'm going to just have these little reinforcing type. Probably do them in bronze. They almost look like little suction cups from, say, like a squid or something like that. Obviously, they're nothing like that, but that's the first thing I thought of when I saw them. See if we changed the brightness last night. See if it became apparent. It's still fighting a lot of this light there. Let me see if I can alter that a little bit. Mr. Ian, welcome. Trying to adjust the lighting conditions so you guys can see maybe a little bit like what I'm looking at. Now let's look at it on screen. And it's still a little, it's not right. It looks better in pictures, trust me, than in video. We'll have pictures afterwards. When we're done with this guy. How are you, sir? No, I don't want to stop the connection. I want to minimize this so I'm not looking at it. There we go. All right, let's continue on the leather here. The leather journal. The leather journey. Journal. Drink. Jeez. I had to sneak in last night's painting session after the storm. We've been having really bad thunderstorms the last, I think all week. We've had them. We even lost power one day, although we tend to not lose power because of the actual storm. It's the wind associated with it. The feeder lines that go into our neighborhood pass through an area where they just don't cut the trees back enough. And any kind of wind just knocks them down. All the power lines that go into the houses in the neighborhood are all underground here, but the feeder lines are not. They go beside a road that's it's tree ridden, I should say. I don't mind trees, they just don't need to be in the middle of. You think they would learn, like, hey, we need to cut these things back or put them underground like civilized places. But we only lose power maybe once a year. It was only out for like 2 hours, and we were at the gym when it happened, so it was really about the best of all the worlds. But didn't happen in the middle of the feed, and it didn't happen on a night that I was going to paint, so really shouldn't complain. If you saw any of my feed yesterday, you'll see that I decided to take the first step into getting into my World War II stuff again. I'm going to redo one of these stands. I've already put the goop on there, so hopefully this morning I can paint that up and make it look more modern standards. The painting on the actual figures I'm perfectly happy with and would be about the same that I would do now. But the basing is early 90s fair, early 1990s fair. That just doesn't cut it anymore. I see lots of things on the internet that I like a lot. And every time I see it, I think to myself, I gotta up my game. I like that stuff. I like what that person did a lot. I need to make my stuff better. So, now let me get away from this so I can see what's really going on. Sometimes I'm too close. I can't look at the overall. I rather like how that's turning out. Cool. Tusk time. Slow morning, I guess, today. I've noticed I've had more people usually in the evenings than in the mornings. I guess the Europeans got tired of me. I'd say pissed enough of them off, but I don't think that's the case. I made enough fun of you guys driving on the wrong side of the road. That's really the only unforgiven thing. I'm never giving up on that one. Nah, people got other things to do. I get it. I don't expect people to come on and just listen. That's stupid. Should be working on your own hobbies. Oh, of course you're asleep during the evenings. I'm talking about this time. Used to have more people at this time than in the evenings. Now I've got more in the evenings than in this mornings. Ah, no harm. I don't know, a couple of you guys. I had one guy from the UK that was following me until I swear like 10 or 30 my time, which would have meant they didn't get any sleep at night. Maybe they're a nurse or something like that. Have a opposite schedule. A painting nurse. I did a job like that for a week where I went in at midnight many, many years ago. And I actually liked it. Because as soon as you get off work, you go to the store and There's no one there except little old ladies. I don't blame them. That's when I'd go shopping too. Wouldn't take me long to be a little old lady. Wouldn't take much for me to make me a little old lady. I already wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. Call myself out. Just about everybody is more of a night owl than I am. I'm no good at that. I used to be one of those people that would stay up till 3 in the morning and wake up at 11. Nope, not anymore. That's way too late to be having breakfast. You should go shopping before 8 a.m. All right, you're a little old lady like me. I get it. I mean, yesterday, wife's like, hey, you want to go somewhere? I'm like, I don't want to fight people. I've been fighting people all day. I go at odd times. We tend to go at, and I don't live in a densely populated area. I don't think I do. Traffic isn't that bad, but you just have this idea that I'm going to do A, B, and C. That should take this long, and it doesn't. It takes longer. I usually go grocery shopping in the evenings, but I don't want to go in my work clothes. And the things I look forward to the most is taking off my work clothes when I get home. I don't have a uniform or anything like that. Certainly, if I had a uniform, I'd be even more inclined to do that. I don't want to go too bright. That should do for now. All right. This guy's got sleeves, or a sleeve on one side. He's sitting like on I have no idea what color I want to do that in, so we're just going to put that off. Let's go ahead and paint his eye. Let's go ahead and paint Heffalum's eye. What's the most popular historical period out there in the UK? Well, I don't know if I could answer that for the US. Things change. World War II is what I grew up playing with. That's all we used to do in miniatures. That's what this hunt is going to be. Now, in real life, it is a museum miniatures Timurid elephant. And it actually had like a little rocket pack or something on there. But I actually have a dedicated Timurid elephant from Alain Toulaire out of production. And I have some of his Timurid figures. So there's no point in having two Timurid elephants. So the way I justify it is, it's the same part of the world. I wanted an elephant that looked a little different. It's a Mongol type Hun-looking guy. I don't know. Maybe the guy's rider's armor is probably out of period. I don't care. I wanted something that looked brown, and it's supposed to be a superior elephant, so he kind of has to look badass. Ancients, Napoleonics, or World War II. I never played Ancients before DBA. I wasn't against it. I just, you kind of have to, unless you're going to be the ringleader, you pretty much have to go with whatever people in your area are already doing. And nobody ever did Ancients. Nobody did Medievals. It was all World War II. There's American Civil War, which I hate. God, I hate that period. I'm just not interested in the period. I'm already American. I don't want to play Americans. Am I unique in that sentiment? Or people in Britain go, I don't want to play anything with the British. I'm already British. I think it's the exception sentiment, because there was a lot of folks, like when we did Modern Micro Armor, they always want to play Americans so they can relate, and that was before they have to they throw Americans and stuff so people can get into it. Like, what's that movie, that stupid submarine movie that came out in the 90s, U-571? Terrible movie. And, they had to throw Americans in there, even though that submarine was captured by the British. Same thing with the Greyhound movie. If you're going to make a movie about the North Atlantic convoys, it should be a British ship. I mean, they were at it for 3 years before the U.S. even got involved in it. And no, we got to put a U.S. in there so people can relate. So there's some people that played Napoleonics when I started wargaming. And I'm starting wargaming, I'm talking like when I'm under 18 years old. But they weren't having fun playing it. Skirmish games seem really popular nowadays. Not really my thing. I've always been interested in them, but for different reasons than everybody else. And I haven't always just played skirmish games. You know what seems to be really popular these days? Things where you build a force with points. And I'm kind of anti that. If I'm going to do skirmish, I want to do a scenario. I don't want to do points. Things lend themselves to, okay, I'll bring my Soviet squad against my British squad. It just doesn't, not my thing. Hey, as long as people are playing war games. I wonder if that's because, Warhammer went to a more skirmish type game, and a lot of trends seem to follow what they do. Not what I've ever done. I've never done Warhammer anything. You're a member of a club back in the 80s, and almost all the games played were 15 millimeter Ancients. Greyhound's based on a C.S. Forester novel, which is about an American captain and warship. Yeah, they should have made a British one. But hey, I don't fund things. They made The Cruel Sea, but it was made a long time ago. Was it black and white? You know, one movie I've never seen. What's that movie with Roger Moore and David Niven? The Sea Wolves. I haven't avoided it. It's just not on for view. I need to just go and freaking rent it. Maybe it's hokey, but it's got Roger Moore and David Niven. What's not to like? At least for me. When I grew up as a kid, you watched whatever war movies they were playing. You know, you couldn't just watch whatever you wanted to. I've never seen that movie. I feel like I'm paying Eye of a Squid or something like that. First novel is called The Good Shepherd. Haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how closely it follows the novel. This had a lot of Hollywoodisms in it. All war movies were in black and white when I was a kid. Oh, yikes. I'm allergic to black and white. And being a huge World War II gamer growing up, that's what really captivated me first was the Battle of the Atlantic when I was like 11. I think that's when I really got into it. There was these series of books, and I don't think they had illustrations in them. They certainly didn't have illustrations. They may have had some black and white photography, not a whole lot. I don't remember what they were called. They were in the school library, so I don't think they were Ballantines or anything like that. I think they were whatever they were. I wish I could find them again, but it'd be almost impossible. I remember they were like here in the library. Sometimes you'd have a book and it was like bound specifically for a library, and it meant the cover was replaced with one that was usually they were either red or or blue with nothing on it, just the name on the what do you call it, on the end of the book, on the edge. You know, so when they're stacked in the bookshelf, they you could read what they are, and they weren't the Time Life books. Those have a lot of pictures, and that's what really captivated me. And I was always into battleships and shit like that, so you know. And it wasn't maybe 5 more years I could find out. Oh, you could war game them and buy little miniatures of them. Sold. You love old black and white movies. Well, we're certainly affected by the stuff that we grew up with. There's things I have memories of that other people may not think much of. I can count on certainly two hands how many black and white movies I've ever seen. Certainly 10 or less. I should make a list, actually. It's not like it's that long of a list. I don't have a problem with foreign movies. They don't have to be American movies, especially now. I mean, now the production quality is pretty much made anywhere is just as good, if not better. And they have people you don't know, which is, I think, a good thing. There was a guy many years ago that I saw. He had done a whole army. I think it was a whole army, all in black and white. He had painted it in different shades of gray. And it was a work of art, but kind of pointless if you ask me. He could have just painted them normally and just turned it to black and white on the camera settings. And then he could do it in either one, but I guess he had a purpose, you know. I guess that's what he wanted to do. But I always felt like I was missing something, you know. It wasn't filmed. The people in the studio didn't look that way. I don't know. I just didn't grow up with it. No film noir for me. Three Stooges. Three Stooges aren't a movie, though. Grew up watching that. Those are all black and white. I've never watched Seventh Samurai because it's in black and white. I don't care how good it is. I'm just not motivated to watch it. But I have seen a handful of movies. Maltese Falcon, first one I can think of. In Harm's Way. I didn't finish watching Longest Day because of it. Sink to Bismarck. Sink to Bismarck's in black and white. That's actually a really good movie for the little ships and shit. Like, they use the right frickin' ships. What else? Not that many. I should write down a list. It comes up from time to time. Good morning, Mr. Dirk. You remember seeing a participation game at a show years ago where all the figures were painted in black and white. Assume it was based on an old movie, but I can't remember which now. Well, it'd certainly make painting them quicker. We'll ask Dirk. Dirk, what are the movies I've seen that are black and white? I don't remember. It's only like 4 or 5. I'm not opposed to old movies. Okay, the supports on this little thing need to be a lighter color. So I'm perfectly happy using this one right here. Screwball Comedies. I have no problem with that. Much better than the crap Hollywood puts out nowadays. Yeah, they put out garbage and they have an agenda. It used to be you just watch the movie and that's it. Not like, oh, we got to push a viewpoint. Just freaking tell a story, man. Can you ask if you have finished DBA RRR for version 3? You can ask, but the more proper thing to ask would be, have I started working on it? And the answer is no, and I won't. There will not be a RRR for version 3. See if I can give you the short version of it. When version 3 came out, one of the coolest things about it is you could have now results on ties. And the nice thing about that is you could have, there are some interactions that between different troop types that we wouldn't have to dumb down. Well, let me go back a little bit. When I worked on RRR, it was because I liked what somebody else had done. And that's the folks that had done the 2.0 pike and shot conversion. And they had started on some really cool stuff and they didn't finish it all the way. And I'm like, well, I kind of like what they did here. Let me take this and run with it. And I don't think it works really well to get the period feel at all. I hope this is why I use epoxy. I've got this thing at 90 degrees to the floor, and hopefully we don't drop this guy. And it just covers too big of a period to work correctly. But the problem that you have, or the problem that I have with it, is it just doesn't feel right. And one of the things that makes it not feel right, and a lot of people agree should have, is there's some units that should be one stand, and the stand can be a lot bigger. So do I have one of these here? I may not. I had it around here somewhere. Put it away. Well, we'll use one of these, and this will do. I don't think this is exactly what I'm looking for. This will do. I thought I had one of them up here. There's some units that I don't think it works well to have the constraint of everything having the same frontage. And you can't really do that with the 3.0 engine. So what I'm looking for is a 60 by 80, the size I use for camps. And I thought I had one here. Here it is. Well, maybe not that big. All right, let me use an extreme example. There's some units that shouldn't be on this size stand. There's some units that may be, I really wanted a 40 by 60. You know, something that's wider. So you can't have that with the conforming rules the way they are. I'm also and the more I've played, and I've played well over 2,000 games of DBA. I've had enough of perfect conforming. I'm not throwing more into that. I accept it because I want to play with other people, but I don't want to play another game where you can't have combat like this. Where you can't even have combat like this. You have to perfectly line up. It's too fakey feeling. So we've played about a dozen games with with our own. I don't know. House rules is probably the correct term, but when I started dissecting all the things that I didn't like about DBA, it's just easier to come up with another set of rules that's DBA like. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of good things about DBA, but to take everything that the next set of rules that I play, whether it be ancients or Renaissance or whatever, will no longer have the when I'm teaching somebody to play a game. Well, that's just the way the rules are. It doesn't make any sense. That's the way the author wrote them. That is out of the equation. I don't want to say those dirty words ever again. And I think the world of Phil. Don't get me wrong, and he's brilliant, but he doesn't have to teach the game to the whole world or to local people or stuff like that. So when I started dissecting, I want the game to look more like the period. You start looking at something like a Swiss keel. And a Swiss keel really has to be at least this per unit, if not 60 by 40, and has to have at least 16 figures or maybe even more than that to look right. And it was too difficult to try to come up with a new game and a new engine at the same time. So if I ever do the Renaissance thing, it will be on the back of a new engine for another game. So I guess what I'm getting at is, and this isn't a priority for me at all. At some point, we may not play DBA anymore. Or let me not speak for everybody. I may not play DBA anymore. But I'll play something DBA-like that will be better, that will be easier to. We spend too much time conforming and all, trying to figure out how to conform and all that crap. You've heard all the conversations. It's way too abstract. So I would be more interested in taking the ancients part and changing it into whatever that is. That of course will be free. That will use DBA 3.0 army lists, so we don't have to redo anything. And they would just play different. And we've played maybe about a dozen test games, Mitch and I, and we're pretty happy with it. I'm not really interested in breaking up the community and stalling my painting efforts because that's going to consume some of my time. So I won't be doing or there will not be an RRR anything. It'll be called something else if it is, but I think we have to get the ancient thing working. And the way we're going to do that is in slow steps by doing scenarios with this stuff. Because when you make a scenario rule, you can change the rules however you want. So step number one we're already thinking of is the way light cavalry is being handled. So light cavalry just doesn't play light cavalry enough in DBA. Doesn't mean it's not play balanced. It just doesn't feel right. So that was the whole reason of me building the Huns, was to start working on scenarios with that. And it may be something I never get to, but I don't know if that answers your question. But there will not be a Renaissance version of this rule. I think that the Renaissance period deserves better than this engine. But there's units. Some units need to be of different frontages. You can't have the frontage of a regular shot unit be the same as a unit of a tercio. A tercio's just got to be bigger. And we've got some ideas, obviously all based on a lot of it inspired by Phil's stuff. I have a problem with people taking Phil's work and not giving him credit for it and charging for his work. I don't know how some people sleep at night. I'm not one of those people. You give people credit where credit's due. And certainly inspired by DBA. The pip mechanism is incredible. It's something so damn simple and it's incredible. But the combat needs to have more flavor. The only way you can add more flavor to the combat and not make it really drag is you need to make the conforming and the movement easier. And it is not easy. It is the most difficult part of the game, and it shouldn't be. In real life, they would say, "You see those guys over there? Hit them, and then keep them pinned down until we come around, do an end around on them." That kind of stuff. Not like, okay, well, make sure you hit them, but you have to line up first. I'm not saying you can't just, there's not going to be zones of control or anything. It's too abstract for it to feel right. It's a good game. It's just very abstract. And it's hard to explain to new people. And anyway, so that's not going to see it anytime soon. And I've got a lot of Renaissance armies to paint. And if I never paint them, oh well, I never paint them. But I think I don't want to jump into creating a new engine for this Renaissance. And I would rather test it out with factors that we're comfortable with and we're really familiar with, and a lot of armies that we already have built for. And then once you get that working right, then take it to the Renaissance period. But the Renaissance period, because the Renaissance period is going to involve basing of different units. You're going to have combined pike and shot units. I don't want them separate like Phil did. I did it that way because that's what these pike and shot people have done, but it doesn't feel right. If you want a good Renaissance game, the pike and shot campaigns on Steam is an excellent little game. It's really cheap. It looks correct. It's cute. It's, the only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't have pips. You can pretty much do everything you want every turn, assuming that your units are in good order. Really my only gripe about it. But most games are that way. So, not anytime soon. Dam busters reach for the sky, which we serve above the waves. We dive at dawn. Ice Cold and Alex Appointment in London. All good black and white British war films. I've heard of Dam busters. I may have heard of Above Us the Waves. Why gotta be black and white? Redo them. Colorize them. So, I would love to paint the period, but it's just too big an ask. I honestly am not happy with how it turned out, the Renaissance thing. I had seen that pike and shot conversion that these guys did, and I really liked it. I'm like, okay, we can extrapolate that. And I really wanted to paint some Renaissance Spanish. I still do. But after playing other games, the units shouldn't be, you can't restrict. No, very few people are comfortable playing certain units that are made up of different ones. It should be all one unit. And it's impossible to do one unit and have them all have a 40 millimeter frontage. And there's some units that they shouldn't be the same factors. A Swiss keel is basically almost invincible to frontal combat. Not invincible, but a beast. So how do you have to have a system that dwindles it down, its strength, through attrition. And so you kind of, look, it's going to be the same game. It's going to feel like the same game. It just, there's a lot of things that we like about DBA. It's the exception of the things that we do not like. And we like the size of the DBA game. And maybe something that you have, 10 elements versus, 14 or 13 or something like that. But we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it on anything other than like scenarios, because I'm not so worried about like micro buying and let me buy 2 of these because it's a better value. It's, trying to take real battles and just kind of put them on the tabletop, and that's kind of what we're getting at. So it's a ways off. It's a ways off, but building the Huns is one step towards making a better game. And you just got to have a game that's easier to teach to new people. It is just, what did we do wrong to be tortured this way? Somebody suggested, oh, you guys should just do an unofficial guide. No, it's not my rule set. It's not my responsibility to have done that. And what if we go through all that trouble and we don't get it right? Like, that's not what he meant. Then we have to redo our unofficial guide, all for free. I mean, we didn't ask to be tortured this way, you know? Ah, okay. A lot of World War II films, they could use footage. Interesting. Well, so they could use that same footage of that Panzer II that's going into France, that goes into that ditch and comes up and gets, you know which one I'm talking about. They use that thing and everything. So for right now, I'm not worried about other rule sets. I'm just kind of plugging along. Because painting is therapeutic, working on rules isn't. But I have played, we have played about a dozen games, Mitch and I. I've got the rules on my computer, the changes that we've made, and it feels a lot better. The same kind of game. It's going to be something, if you're already familiar with DBA or this kind of thing, it's going to feel more natural. Has other things you can use the pips for. I'm not going to give anything away, but I think we're on the right track. It's just, it would keep me from doing any painting if I worked on that exclusively. And there's some people that aren't going to like it. You don't have to. You know, I don't care if people don't like what we create with. Just like if I paint this elephant and like, I don't really like how you painted that elephant. Well, I don't really care. I didn't paint it for you. I painted it for me. So as long as I'm happy. There's lots of things I don't like on the internet. I don't feel like I have to comment on them, you know. I don't tolerate really any negativity in my hobby. You know, the hobby is, this is a therapy to keep us from going crazy. So, I think the end of the elephant's tail is all black, isn't it? Yeah, well, so playing DBA has opened my eyes to a lot of things. It's also soured me on a few things. I don't want to. I don't want to look. I don't want to learn new rule sets because of I'm exhausted searching for shit. It's exhausting to play shit and play it wrong. It's really unsatisfactory. And I've gotten older. It just isn't worth it anymore. So we'll see. It's not a priority at this point. And like I said, it's not like it's going to be done for money. It's going to be like free. You know, that's not my. I only do things for money I hate doing. But two other rule sets have literally taken, I'm not going to mention any names, have taken what I consider Phil's work and put their name on it, not given Phil any credit, and charge for it. It's just wrong. If you guys want to play out stuff, that's fine. Nobody in my area plays those games, so not a big loss on my end, but it sends the wrong message. It rewards the wrong behavior. So this guy needs a shield. And I don't want it to be too colorful. But I feel like it does need another color. And the other color that it needs is something like maybe this. This guy's got some kind of a COVID mask on. Just what we need. More of that. No. I don't know what color we'll paint that. Five more minutes. I got to make sure the girls are awake. Time to paint this? If I get asked about that a lot more, I'll just make a video explaining it. Here's this link. Go here. As much work as I put into it, I'm not very proud of it. It just covers too big of an area. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to have it in the 1500s. It would be like, 1490 to 1590. I don't care about the 1600 stuff. Somebody else can do that. Or maybe we will do it. It'll just, I don't think it translates well into cosplay, You don't want to bring like an Italian Wars army versus, later Poles or something like that. It's not going to be, they're not going to be equivalent. But I did take a smaller step towards it because of my Historicon experience. And my Historicon experience is basically that the only place where they're playing DBA of any kind is here in Florida. I'm not going to run anything else at Historicon. I didn't say I'm not going to go to Historicon anymore. I'm not going to run stuff at Historicon anymore. It's somebody else's baby. It's not my problem. We've showed up. We've spent a lot of time, effort, driving 15 hours away. It wasn't really the drive. It wasn't the experience. We had a great time. I just felt like we were tied to those tables, and then nobody showed up to play. If people want to play there, then they can run the game in their own thing, But we spent a lot of effort doing that, and not just this year, other years, and just people just don't show up to it. So I need to stop treating Historicon like it's the royalty that I think it was, and it is no more. And just, you guys want to play a lot of DBA? Come to Florida. I'll just go play other stuff. I'll go and do walkthrough videos. That was a shitload of fun. I wish we'd done more of that. Oh, we need to have a national tournament at Historicon. Why? Nobody showed up to play. you know? The tournaments were down and everything except, I'm not, the thing about tournaments is it gets me to play with my own toys. That's the only reason. I'm not an uber win at all costs kind of person. I want to play with my own toys so I don't have to worry about somebody else touching them and damaging them. And it gives me a reason to build more armies. That's it. I mean, I'm competitive no matter what I'm playing. But my competitiveness, I think, has changed over the years to where I want to play something that's going to create unusual situations and create a great narrative. Not necessarily win in a narrative. I want interesting things to happen. So, let me check on one thing. Be right back. Okay, folks. Well, that's going to be a wrap. I've got to go start my day, so I probably will be on later today, I would imagine. But yeah, an hour 18 minutes. I knew it was going to be a short one, but anyhow, we will continue where we left off. Obviously, the shield's going to be a little brighter than that. But thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the beginnings of your Saturday, and we'll catch you guys on a little later on. Bye-bye, folks.